trying to show that she does have this sex appeal that she hasn't shown, right? Because she's been a stay-at-home Olaf girl, but she's not trying to change that. But
Now that she's a free woman
now
and
that
married, now she's like, well, now that I can legally marry anybody I want, how about the guy with all the money?
well, she's already married to Olaf.
Yeah.
So you're asking me to let you teach the French woman your ways of
I'm
how
merely
to.
saying that it would be beneficial to both of us if I spent some time with her.
Well, I suppose.
Oh,
Oh man,
we'll fuck it up.
that is
Six.
terrible. That's like
It's just because it's been so many years since you tried.
Yeah, right.
like
Whew.
Let
I'm
me ask you,
looking.
what does her failing horribly at trying to be sexy look
Yeah.
like?
Oh God, it's gotta
I'm pretty
be
sure she
like
just like knocks over the wine glass onto him. Just like
yeah,
tries to
yeah.
show a little chest, and then just elbows and like
Right. I think that's
knocks the
exactly right.
table over.
I think she's so like she's like
Sitcom, basically.
but she's like Brienne of Tarth huge. I mean, she's a giant of a woman. I think she sort of leans on the table and like yeah, the table like tips up, you know? And so like the drink slides off into Baldur's lap and it's a debacle and she's just glad there's not any more people there to see it.
Yes, yes. Don't worry. I'll be certain to send people to you and Olaf if I need them to be big, strong warriors. But I'm not sure about other things.
Yes, well, in an attempt to save face, she will make some small talk and then try and leave.
Yep. So, I think the next scene, unless anyone has anything they'd like to do.
No.
I mean, at
Well,
some point, I'd
I-
probably like to talk to Hildred, but it's not urgent.
Okay.
Um,
Olaf Olafsson would like to bring Baldur and Grim together to discuss man things, like men.
okay.
well, that sounds
In the back of
appropriate.
the longhouse, in the private room where men smoke cigars and join the Skulls Society.
Yeah.
Yeah, the very literal Skulls Society. Jeez.
Basically away from their wives. And, of course, Aesgarder and Meckley, who for still reasons still they both come to the longhouse and drink like they're men. Even though, in everyone else's eyes, neither of them are.
Wow.
Yeah.
But Olaf Olafsson's in the back room. He's looking pretty drunk right now. And he says, Baldur, Grim, I have something to tell you.
Oh.
That exile, Freki.
Yes.
I remember when I had to crush Aitlin's hands because of that bastard.
I
Now he
remember.
comes into my house. Talks to me about him taking over. He wants to become the man who has my loyalty, but I owe my loyalty to Grim Ulfson. He is the man around here with the longhouse and the farmstead that takes care of us. And you, Baldur, I could never forget what you have done to all of us. You have led us into a new age of prosperity without that filthy, cheating, conniving, very strange Gothi that betrayed us that day so many years ago, before the Great Christian War.
Yes, that was a terrible time. We are all much better now.
No,
This
we are
day.
not better now. Freki is planning something, I know it. My wife has convinced me of it.
I too believe that Freki is plotting something. I
Right.
fear I may have fallen into one of his traps. He has suckered me into a deal that is too good to be true, and I fear that he will hold it over my head.
You want to talk about falling into things, you should talk to my son.
I was there. I helped your wife fish him out.
I heard that my wife lifted him out all by her own.
I definitely helped a little bit.
Okay. It's not that I don't believe you, the one I have pledged to, but For some reason, we don't have a relationship or something, maybe. Anyway, I'm really drunk, so don't listen to anything I'm talking about.
No, a
Just-
man speaks more truth drunk than he speaks lies sober. I am more apt to believe your word now than any other.
To keep
You are the
an eye
most
on
truthful
Fricky.
man in this village.
I believe he is, in fact.
I am the biggest
Isn't.
man in this village in more ways than one.
I pat him on the shoulder. Yeah, you are a good man, Olaf, and you always have been.
He just
You are.
starts crying. He's like, I am not a good man. The things
Oh,
I had to do. You weren't there, Baldur. You don't know.
I was there for some of it. It was terrible, and we shall never have to live through that again.
Why did we have to kill all the Christians?
Think not of the past, Olaf, son. Think to the future and the future you have provided for your son, your family, and your wife. Remember, the past can only haunt you.
He puts a hand on Baldur's shoulder while you're talking and he says, I had to kill her, you know.
I know, I know. But we have already made sacrifices for the gods, for forgiveness for that.
Do I know who they're talking about right now?
Do you?
I don't know. Well, me personally, I don't, but I don't know if Grim does.
Let me ask, does Baldur know who I'm talking about?
I'm assuming the person who stabbed him in the back.
No.
Yeah. Oh, that was Thora, and I don't think we ever heard what happened to her.
No.
So
don't
he's like, you think I'm talking about Thora, don't you?
We're not sure. We never. Oh no, you're right. We never actually have heard what happened to her.
Says, I know what happened to Thora, but no. I was not talking about Thora. I had to kill Laura.
Laura, as in like,
Laura Ingolfsdotter. You wouldn't know her, Grim. It was before your time. Baldur was in love with her. And I have to do what I can to protect the village. It has always haunted me what I had to do there. When I burst into Simonder's room, she was there. With a spear. And I had to stab him through her.
It is all right. I have. It is true that I did love her, but the village comes first. Sometimes, in terrible times, you are forced to do things that a man should not have to do. But think not of this now.
You should have been better men, Baldur.
We still have the opportunity. We are not dead yet. We can still make this place a better place for at least your children. Well, you two both have 3 wonderful children growing up. I still have not been blessed with any, but I look upon this village as my child. And
No, go ahead.
And it is our job, the job of the men, the eldest here, to provide for our children. And then we will need to make sure that neither Freki nor Gurney are able to subvert those plans. I fear, I must tell you, he has told me that I think he has sworn something to the King of Norway, Freki, and I am worried that he intends to bring his men here. We must talk some sense into the man. It will only end in bloodshed if nobody here wants Harald to come and his men to come here. People would resist. There would be violence. He would tax us to starvation. We must talk some sense into the man. The only person who could possibly benefit from it would be Freki and Girny, of course. That is why they want this. But we must persuade them to be better people. I hope we can. For the alternatives are not pleasant. And I do not wish to return to that lifestyle. What say you? Do you think we can talk to them?
So, I think you hear the sounds of shouting, like men pulling a boat in. They're like, "Hey, bring that line over here!" And it seems strange that someone would be bringing in a boat in so late. And Baldur, Olaf turns to you and says, "I think it is too late to deal with Freki and Gerni." And then he says, "I'm going to go see what all that shouting is about." He's like drunkenly stumbles out the side door of your longhouse.
I look at him and say, do not make any rash decisions. Remember, he was seeking out my advice, right?
Yep.
Okay. He'll get a +1 if he needs to make any rolls.
Yeah, and you get a relationship mark with him.
Yay.
As he stumbles out the door, he does what every TV show nowadays does, and instead of saying exactly what he can see, he just says, "You have to come see this so that the camera can follow you. Get your reaction shot." And in the process, we end up with Olaf Olafsson, Grim Ulfsson, Baldur Odinson, and Bertie Hallandsdottir, all in the same shot, looking at a handful, perhaps 24 Norwegian soldiers carrying bark-side down wood timbers off of a very large boat that has all the markings of a Jarl of Norway. And in the dim torchlight of the night, you can see that, these soldiers are all very well armed and armored.
Too late
Okay.
indeed, my friend.
So 24 of them, so basically the entire population of our village.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's just them carrying one log.
Okay.
And so out of the edge of the torchlight, he appears as if from shadow and mist from behind you, and you hear a voice say, "So, how do you like my new boat? Ever since Harold made me Jarl of Iceland." He looks at you smugly, and it's Freki. He says, "So, what was it you said again? That you wanted someone who would not interfere with the village, and would bring prosperity, and would not take much from you? That is what you wanted for the rule of Harold the Fair-Haired?"
That is indeed what I said.
"Very well." He brings out a signet ring, and he presents it to you and says, "I will spare this village my taxation if you submit to me as your Jarl, and through me the King of Norway."
You know how very well, Freki, how things are done here.
He says, "Yes, I do." And he points to the boat, and you see another 24 men bringing a second log off. And now that you're looking at it, there's a lot of logs moving on that boat.
And decisions like this is something we should take inside the house.
He says,
Like men.
"I thought you told me that you would agree to something like this. What decision is there to make, Baldur Odinson? Are you a man who does not live up to his agreements? Are you not a man of his word now?"
Of course I am a man of my word. That is why we need to move inside the house and write down a proper proclamation of what is to take place here. Because if we are indeed to submit to the new Jarl of Iceland, we must have things in writing, correct?
He says, "That sounds good. Jarl of Iceland. Proper writing. Yes, let us go inside the longhouse. I assume you will provide hospitality for my men.
Well, I hope you brought some supplies. I don't think I can feed that many people.
He says, "Oh, don't worry. I brought plenty of supplies. There will be a feast tonight and every night this week. And more importantly, I brought many supplies so that my new smith can forge my men and repair the weapons that we will injure."
Oh, well, I don't think you'll need to be injuring your weapons that much around here.
He says, "No, I don't expect I will, once you have kissed the ring."
So why do you expect them to be injured?
I think all he does is laugh. Ah, ah, ah. And then moves to the longhouse with, like an honor guard of maybe 6 men.
Mental note: every time I write an NPC that owes me something, Arthur will make him the big villain. Let's not do that ever again. Okay, let's move into the longhouse.
I feel like I'm going to tip my hand here, but I love that you think that Frecky is the big villain.
No, Gurney is still number 1 on the list, but he's a big villain nevertheless. There could be more
Are you
than
going to
one.
do the American military Iraqi thing where you just like have a deck of cards and Gurney's the ace and he's the king?
Yeah, right.
Pretty much. I'm fairly certain those are the 2 people that are going to bring everything to ruin, and unless we find some way of doing anything about it. But now that he's brought an entire army, there's not really much we can do about it.
Well, there's plenty you could do about it.
So
what will you do about it?
Right, yeah. There's lots that we can do, and so that's what I was gonna say. I would like to try and can I use the move raise your voice and talk sense and not raise my voice and just talk sense?
I think talking sense is raising your voice as a woman.
So Frecky has left you guys to go into the longhouse, get drunk, and wait for you to show up and basically proclaim him Jarl of Iceland. So there's not really anybody else around on these docks except for Olaf Olafsson. If you'd like to raise your voice and talk some sense right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and talk.
I'm assuming when you say you didn't want to raise your voice, it's because you wanted to talk privately.
Yeah.
Such privacy exists here.
Okay. Yeah, that's basically what I'm looking for. Because she wouldn't be yelling and screaming like a mad lady in front of this Frecky. Or,
a bunch of soldiers and stuff. Yeah.
Wait, this is Haiti that came back? No.
Frecky.
Frecky?
Frecky. It
was Frecky that pronounced himself Jarl of Iceland.
Yeah, okay.
And showed up with 50 soldiers, I think, is what I've heard so far.
50 so far. There's definitely more than that, though.
We've got so many people that end in I that I'm falling out on them. Okay, yeah, so I want to try and talk some sense into Baldur. And I want to convince him that this is not a good idea. And that it just puts us as it puts us under the power of a foreign lord, and that's not okay.
I know.
So that's a 7. Oh, I think it's a 7. It might just be an 8. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh, it's an 8.
You've given him some advice, and if he acts on it, he gets a +1. If he acts in any way against not accepting foreign lords.
Well, I agree with you that it is not a good way, but what is the alternative? He has enough soldiers to do whatever he wants. I do not wish to see the people of the village die.
Has he threatened the village with death if we do not submit to his rule?
Only a fool would see that wasn't implied.
Well, like...
nobody brings 50 soldiers to carry logs and just for a house visit. I don't think he's giving us much choice in the matter. But what I intend to do is to try and get as favorable or a deal as possible. Now, for one, I do not have the authority to grant him rulership over the entirety of Iceland. That would need to happen at the Althing.
What do we know about the soldiers that follow him? Do we know anything at all?
What you've seen in the torchlight is they're well armed and armored. They're
Okay.
ethnically Norwegian,
Okay.
and they're carrying giant logs.
Right. Huh. Okay. Interesting. So, and we know that Freki is kind of an annoying Icelander, right?
Yep.
Like, as in, the Norwegians don't like Icelandic people. Is that correct?
Well, they think of him as lesser, but and don't necessarily like them that much. But it's not too bad. It's more of a like.
I'm wondering, so just
it's
talking
like-
out loud here. Oh man, I'm so quick to return to the ways of Un the Crone. I'm wondering if there's a way that we can replace Freki with someone more favorable.
Not without traveling to Norway, if the king has indeed given him this decree. Not without talking to the king himself. Not unless someone here can use their womanly wiles to charm each and every soldier over there.
It's a lot of roles for Heidi, man.
Yeah.
It'll fail eventually. Not Heidi, I'm sorry, Birdie.
Birdie.
Yes, that
So,
would be the problem.
while you're having this discussion, the torches flicker again, and then all of the torches go out from a very cold, unseasonable wind that blows in. And all of the torch embers stay lit, so it's still casting a little bit of light. And someone in a black outfit is moving towards the rest of you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh hi, Gurney.
He says, "It is good that you know it's me.
We felt a cold wind approach. Of course it was you.
That cold wind is a dozen more ships like this arriving from off the coast.
You could have told us about this. You can see the
I didn't know
future.
until right now. My husband has done something very foolish.
Oh,
Fortunately
Foolish.
for you, I can solve this problem for you.
How is it that you intend to solve this problem?
I need something from each of you.
really?
What is it you would do?
I would drive this ship and the other dozen ships beneath the sea, where they would never be seen again.
That sounds like some very powerful sorcery there.
Very powerful sorcery requires very powerful ingredients.
And what would you require for this?
He says, "How could you not suspect? I've been preparing for this moment for a while. I've always known that it would be time. I need the blood of a young witch. I need the strength of a young man. And I need the wisdom of an elder. You must give your daughter to me, Grim Ulfson, for training. You must give your son to me, Bertie Hal's daughter. And with his strength, I can... Well, I'll be needing a new husband soon, if this goes according to plan. And with you, Baldur Odinson, someone must lead the village, if we do not have the Jarl. And with the coming war that will result from our actions, I will need your guidance through the world of the elves.
Do you think this is a war we can win? We are not so many. And
I
they
have
are.
thrown the dice. It is the flip of a coin. But everything starts and ends here. Either we resist them now, or they land and it's over. I could tell you of the vision I've had of this moment, but needless to say, everything is balanced here. The fate of Iceland requires your decision. Will you give up these things that are precious to you? Or will you selfishly guard them and allow the Norwegians to take over this land, pure and pristine?
My leadership you can ask of me, of course, I give it freely, but these other two things are not mine to give. Let me think on this.
I am not asking only you. Each of them must make the choice for themselves.
I do not wish it to come to violence. If I wish to ponder a little bit.
I can say honestly that no man's blood will be spilt as a result of these actions.
Well, if they drown, certainly not. I
She
suppose.
kind of smiles slightly and shrugs her shoulders as if she thought she could get away with that one.
Certainly, someone will hit their head on the way down.
Yes. You've never been on a ship across the sea. Men bleed when they land in the water sometimes. But anyway, I am considering a very difficult situation right now myself, and I'm wondering if I can see wisdom from my years.
You're
I
gonna
would
try
also
to
like to
elder yourself.
I am.
I
Well,
would like to
I,
consider an uneasy situation personally.
I ask.
I assume
I
that's
ask.
what.
Shit. Go ahead.
Basically, I ask myself and well, make the roll. Oh, well, I'm a smart one, ain't I?
You're eldering yourself and you succeed. I suspect you're using the considering an uneasy situation. Okay.
Yes.
Ask your questions. You get two.
I don't want to take the violent way, so I want to know what if there is an honorable way out for one.
The honorable way out of this situation would probably be to do what you did before and challenge Freki to a home ganga.
And what snares have been set for me in this plan of hers.
Which person? You're asking about Freki or you're asking about Gurney?
Gurney,
Okay.
Freki isn't quite as complicated as Gurney.
Of course. Gurney's snares lie in the future. She's not being completely honest with you about what she needs you for, but it's
Of
clear
course.
that she needs you for something involving magic.
Mm,
You very specifically mentioned the elves. Something she probably wouldn't have done if she didn't have something held back.
yes.
All right, your uneasy
Well.
situation has been
So
considered.
Grim is going to also consider an uneasy situation.
All right,
We'll
let's
see
do
if
it.
I have any equal luck. Oh,
Yeah,
I
ask your
do.
questions.
What is the most I can make out of this situation?
Ooh, I'm gonna have to
Understanding that Grim's top priority is the safety and well-being of his family and those of his neighbors.
The most you can make out of this situation would be to submit to Norwegian rule and accept this great boon that Freki has given you.
This great
I
boon?
don't.
You mean the trade?
Yeah, I. Well, beyond that, I think that you were there when Freki mentioned that he was bringing in ore for weapons. No,
Um,
that was someplace else. Still, you're considering the uneasy situation. Um,
At this point, I mean, Norwegian rule is basically the safest option for
Yes.
my family and